The panning of vocal parts will depend largely upon how many singers there are in the particular group that you're recording. And in this particular project, there's only really two singers, so two-part harmonies for some things. So there's going to be a lead vocal, and there's also going to be a harmony vocal at certain parts of the song. But you'll notice there's actually two backup vocal tracks, and I'll explain why there are two in just a moment. But let's apply a couple of track presets here. I'm going to go to the edit window of the lead vocal. Let's go to the track preset window, and let's hit the reset button and go to vocals and lead vocals. And let's choose one of the lead vocal track presets like the male rock lead number 1. So I'm going to double click on that. And you can see it didn't add very many effects to our project. All it added was a compressor and an equalizer. But that'll probably be enough for what we're going to do right now. So let's add different track presets to the two backup vocal tracks as well. So I'm going to go to the same category, but let's choose the exact same patch for these other two instruments. And let me show you a quick trick. What I'm going to do is take this track, which has a track preset on it, and I'm going to right or control click on it, and I'm going to choose Copy First Selected Channel Settings. Then I'm going to go to the next track and right or control click on that channel and choose Paste Settings to Selected Channels. That's going to take any settings on this track and apply them to this track. So now let's solo the lead vocal and take a listen to it in the center. Right now it's in the center position, and that's probably where you would leave a lead vocal track as long as it wasn't doubled. This is a single lead vocal track, and that's why it's panned center.
I say yes and you say no. Why can't we agree? You say stop and I say go. We're living at the yellow in between. I lift you up.
Now let's bring in one of the harmony vocal tracks. So let's solo the first backup vocal track.
Yesterday was like today. Why does it always seem to work out this way? We're at an impasse.
So if we only had one backup vocalist, we might pan that track to the left or the right, and you can hear that that starts to open up a little bit more of that stereo image. I'm going to fast forward here a little bit to get to more of the backup vocals.
I raise you up, you drag me down.
But what I've done in this particular project is created two different backup vocal tracks which contain the same performance recorded at two different times. That's the really powerful way of doing double tracking, when you have the performer play or sing through the same exact thing at two different times, because you get a really thick, rich sort of result. And let me show you what I'm talking about with these backup vocal tracks. I'm going to remute the lead vocal track, and I'm going to go to these backup vocals, and I'm going to pan that first vocal track back to center. Now let's listen to those backup vocals, and bear in mind that they contain the same performance. So this isn't any harmony going on here. It's the same vocal part sung and recorded at two different times.
Lift you up, you bring me down.
So it actually sounds like two different people are singing. It's actually me being recorded twice, but that's what creates that vocal double.
Why does it always seem to work out this way? We're at an impasse.
But what I'm going to do with that vocal double is do the same thing that I did with the guitars, and that is pan one of them over to the left and one of them over to the right. That will open up a big stereo image for the backup vocals, and that's going to allow the lead vocal to still sit in the center. So I'm going to take that first backup vocal and pan it all the way over to the left, and then take the second backup vocal and pan it all the way over to the right. So now let's listen to the result of that in mono and stereo, and you're going to be surprised at the difference that this makes.
Do we sink or do we swim? Our listing ship is looking grim. Well, take my hand and you will see. Or would you rather drown in all this misery?
See, in stereo, there's just a big, wide space for that lead vocal to sit inside of, and it really thickens up the background vocals. So now let's listen to the same section with the lead vocal added, and we're going to listen to it first in stereo.
Do we we sink or do we swim? Our listing ship is looking grim. Well, take my hand and you will see. Or would you rather drown in all this misery?
Now let's listen to the result in stereo and in mono. Here's stereo.
We swim. Our listing ship is looking grim. Well, take my hand and you will see. Or would you rather drown in all this misery?
So now let's hear that in the mix. So I'm going to click it back to stereo. I'm going to bring the backup vocals down a little tiny bit because I want that lead vocal to really have the most space in the project. And then I'm going to come to the solo button of the lead vocals. And because we've done some mixing on these other tracks, we can listen to the entire song in context.
Do we sink or do we swim? Our listing ship is looking grim.
So we're losing some of the vocals, so let's do a little bit of mixing here.
Rather drown in all this misery. And I say young and you say old. It's all about how you feel. You say bland and I say bold. The taste erased from every meal. I drag you up. You shoot me down, down, down. Like before we're stuck here on the ground. Yesterday was like today. The day before was
Okay, so the backup vocals are still a little loud, so I'm going to come to the backup vocals and drop those down a bit.
just like every other day. We're at an impasse. We're at an impasse.
And the overall vocals might be a little bit loud at this point. But now let's listen to the same section in mono and in stereo. So let's rewind here.
Do we sink or do we swim? Our listing ship is looking grim. Take my hand and you will see. Would you rather drown in all this misery? And I say young and you say old. It's all about how you feel. You say bland and I say bold. The taste erased from every meal. I
See how in stereo you can really pick out all of those individual instruments much easier than you can in mono.
We're stuck here on the ground. Yesterday was like today. The day before was totally like today.
So now we've got all the panning that we need to do in this project. And as we get into our next section or our next Pro Mix technique of EQ, we may need to go back and adjust the panning of those tracks. And bear in mind that your ears will always be the judge. If you get to a certain point and you can't hear certain instruments because they're panned a little too hard to the left or not hard enough or too much to the right, you can always refer back to your first two Pro Mix techniques of volume and panning and make adjustments as you continue to mix your project.